All right, we are live. We are live. Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. 5.
Damn, was it me?
With another live show. Here we go with this internet stuff, bro.
Damn, was that you or is that me?
Yes, I don't. It's mine. I don't understand why it's doing this.
Oh my goodness. Oh, we're gonna have a tough one. All right. So, hey, just if you guys are with us, if you're rocking with us, let us know that you're on. Stephen, they had an internet outage at his house. This is our first live show in 5 months. Man, college football. If you guys don't know, week 0 is actually this weekend. Not any major, any super big games, but it's back. It's time for us to get back in the groove of doing our live shows weekly. Some really good games this weekend. Like I said, nothing crazy, but it'll be good to have a Saturday where we have college football back on the TV. Steven, are you good? Your internet's good?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell because I can still hear you and still go. So I won't know if I won't know if I get cut out unless you see I get cut out. So
yeah, I can see. Like I said, the internet's going down. We're gonna push through it.
But today, hopefully I don't get cut off by explaining this. Today we're gonna be giving our conference champions for all the 4 major conferences, and then we're also gonna give our automatic qualifier for the group of 5 champion into the playoffs. We're going to give each of our national champions, our runner-up, our biggest surprise team, and our biggest disappointment team. Obviously, all projections and predictions for this upcoming year. Hopefully, I'm still going and I'm not cut out yet. But let's get right into it. So I'll let you go first with your group of 5 team that you feel is going to get in the playoffs, or who you predict to get in the playoffs in the group of 5 teams.
Yeah, so I have ties to this school. You guys know Caden Salter. So I have to go. I think the group of 5 team that I have is going to be Liberty. We know Caden Salter and what Liberty has done. They've been a perennial double-digit win team, especially in these last couple of years. So I think this is the year with the group of 5 getting the automatic bid into the playoffs that Liberty actually gets to show what they can do against the big boys, what they can do against college football's powerhouses. I think that is my group of 5 champion. Who's yours?
My group of 5 champion as well is Liberty.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the easy pick. Caden Salter, I think, is the best quarterback in the group of 5. And I think their schedule plays a big part as well. Absolutely. I almost went Tulane just to kind of be different, and I think Tulane can still be good. But they play 2 ranked opponents, 2 teams in the top 25 in Kansas State and Oklahoma, I believe.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to win both those games. And even if they win their conference, being 10-2, I don't really foresee them having a better record than Liberty. Liberty actually starts their season off against the Campbells.
Hey, if you guys don't know, was that a live show or
yeah?
I can't remember.
No, that was not a live show.
A little inside joke for the Neutral Zone people that have been following us for a long time. Oh, I think Steven, you good? Oh, I thought you was.
Oh no, I'm here. I'm just making sure my I'm not lagging. I just want to make sure because Brandon had said I was lagging a little bit. But yeah, that is both of our group of 5 champs is Liberty. But let's move on. I'll go to the next one. ACC. I think this is obviously an easy one for me. I think Clemson's going to win the ACC this year. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think Clemson's going to have some adversity early on. I know we play Florida State early. We obviously played Georgia and Atlanta in the first week of the season here in the next 2 weeks. But I just think this is the best defensive team in the ACC, a top 5 defense in college football. I think Cade Klubnik's going to be a little bit more experienced. I have been on record saying that this team is not a national championship team with Cade Klubnik under center. I still believe that. I still agree with that. But I think that this team is good enough to win the ACC with him. And I think they're good enough to win a playoff game. So I do think Clemson wins the ACC. I don't know. I mean, we might play a Florida State or Miami. We don't play Miami in the regular season. We play Florida State in Tallahassee. But I think even if you lose that game, it's not the end of the season for you because Miami still has to play Florida State as well. Florida State still has to play Louisville. A lot of these other, decent ACC teams. But I think Clemson has the easier road to the ACC title game this year with their toughest game, big out of conference in Georgia.
Yeah, I'm going to go exactly with you. I think Cade Klubnik, a 5-star recruit, starting for the first time last year. I think he takes a step forward. I think Clemson comes in with a big chip on their shoulder. Everybody's talking about their down. I think everybody's really kind of throwing dirt on the name of Dabo Swinney. Again, a guy I think that is one of the best coaches in college football. I think the disrespect for Clemson is loud. They have a bunch of bulletin board material, and I think those guys are going to come out fired up and ready to go. I think Phil Maffa, for what Clemson does, is probably the better lead back. No knock to Will Shipley. Obviously, he went on to the NFL. So I think that helps their running game. And then you just suspect that one of these receivers is going to really step up. You may have seen it in our Clemson video. I think one of these receivers is going to establish themselves as a true number one. The Clemson defense is the Clemson defense. They are going to be great. Dabo Swinney is going to have a great defense at Clemson every year that he's there. So I don't suspect that this defense is going to be the problem. They were a great defense last year, even with, again, what we call a down 9-win season. This was a top defense in college football last year. I don't expect them to drop off of that pedestal that they put themselves on defense, but I suspect that offense is going to take a step up. I think when you look at this with Florida State losing so many players, and then Miami, who I would have probably as the next team, still just kind of working out some of the kinks. You got a new quarterback there. I honestly suspect that Miami is going to be the other team in the ACC championship. But I think Dabo Swinney and these Clemson Tigers got something to prove. They feel disrespected, and they're going to come out and play ball. I have them winning the ACC this year.
What's going on, Greg? Glad to see you back. We haven't been live probably since the last time you were here. It's been a while.
You ain't missed nothing.
Bear with me today. My allergies are whooping my behind. My eyes are hurting pretty bad right now. I'd be high on Miami if Cristobal wasn't their coach. Yeah, I know he's had some lackluster and bonehead decisions. Zach says, I think NC State is a sleeper team to go with and win it. I agree they're a top 25 team. I just don't know if they're going to be able to, be consistent enough to win it. They look really good some weeks and really bad other weeks. And he says, I have FSU winning it. Moving on, though, Dad. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm not – I think FSU is going to be good. I think if somebody said Miami, I think those three teams – and again, no knock to NC State, but those three teams are really the teams that are in that conversation. This is one that I don't think I'd be willing to bet money on. Obviously, I'm not a Clemson fan to the same level as Steven. I'm not a Clemson fan at all. But obviously, Steven is. This is the one I'd be willing to bet money on. I just feel like so much mud has been thrown on the name of Clemson. Like, this is not a true blue blood team. And I think they are – I believe that Clemson team is talking about that every day. And they're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder.
So now that we've covered the ACC, let's go ahead and talk about the Big Ten. Dad, I'll let you go first. Obviously, the Big Ten guy. So you go ahead and get your pick first.
So this is, again, much to the way that Steven said Clemson was simple for them. I'm going to say that obviously I'm picking Ohio State, but it's not simple. Oregon is legit. I have Oregon as probably a top 3 team in college football. I think they're ranked 2 and 3 in the early polls. I think Oregon is going to make some noise. If you guys don't know, we're going to that game in Eugene. We already got our tickets. We got flights. We are ready to go. I'm excited. I think that's going to be one of the games of the year. I can see that going either way. As an Ohio State fan, more than anything, if we lose that game early or if we lose the game in the Big Ten championship, because I'm going to tell you, it is my prediction that those two teams play twice this year. I think either way, we get into the 12. We get into the 12-team playoff. And then it's just a matter of who's better. Much the same way that I said Dabo Swinney has something to prove, I think Ryan Day has something to prove this year. 3 losses to Michigan. He beat Michigan his first year as their Ohio State coach, but 3 straight losses. No big marquee wins for Ohio State. I don't really count the Notre Dame game. We need a win against Michigan. We need some wins in the playoffs with Ryan Day as the coach. There are Ohio State fans, and listen, I'm an Ohio State fan. I'm in a bunch of Ohio State groups that are calling for Ryan Day to get dismissed. I'm not there. I think this is the year that we got to beat Oregon. One of those 2 times, We got to beat Michigan. We got to make some noise in the playoffs. So my early pick is Ohio State. I wouldn't be shocked if this ends up being Oregon, but I think both teams make it into the playoffs. What's your pick, Steven?
I agree. I do think both teams get in the playoffs. I actually have Oregon winning the Big Ten. I just think I trust Dylan Gabriel more than Will Howard. I think,
I respect that.
Ohio State has – I wouldn't even say they have more weapons because that's even debatable at this point. I mean, if you're talking about receiving core, I think it's debatable. Obviously, running back-wise, I lean heavily towards Ohio State. But Evan Stewart as well as Tez Johnson are really good receivers in their own right.
That's a fact.
So I do think Dylan Gabriel has some weapons. I think the style of play is going to be good. I trust him a lot more than I trust Will Howard. Not to say Will Howard's not going to perform, but I trust him a little bit more, especially being at home in Eugene playing against Ohio State. But like I said, I think both teams are going to get in the playoffs. So
yeah,
I don't think it really matters at this point. That game is, I'm not going to call it a scrimmage, but to a certain extent, it's. I mean, that game doesn't really matter.
And obviously, we'll talk about this later, but I think this is one of the bad things of the 12-team playoff, right? Years past, this game would have been enormous. It would have been monumental. It would have probably been the difference between one of these teams going to the playoffs and one of these teams not. This year, it is a little bit more like whatever team drops it, they're probably both going to make the playoff anyway, so no big deal. I think that takes some, and again, this is a much longer conversation that we'll probably have down the road, but I think that takes some of the pageantry off of you must win every game in college football.
Yeah, definitely. But moving on to the Big 12, I'll go first with this one. And this, to me, if you guys have been here for a while, this is not a surprise. I think Utah is a playoff team this year. I really like Cam Rising coming back. Hopefully he's healthy. I just trust Kyle Whittingham and the Utes team as a whole, especially after Texas and Oklahoma leaving. I don't think there's going to be a team in there that can compete with them. Now, does that mean saying that they'll never lose? No, but I think if they are to lose to a team like a Colorado or a Kansas, I don't think it's happening 2 times in 1 year. I think Utah is a better bet to win the Big 12 than anybody else in there. I don't think it's like the ACC where you could see Clemson, Miami, Florida State. In the SEC, you could see Texas, Georgia, Alabama. In the Big 10, you could see Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan. Like, I think Utah is so much further ahead and a little bit more matured than everybody else in that conference. I mean, yes, Kansas is a good team. Kansas State is a good team. Oklahoma State is a good team. But I just think Utah plays a different brand of football than anyone else in the Big 12. That they would need a guy like Cam Rising to go out for the entire year for them not to be able to make noise. This team was a top 25 team last year without their best player.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to go a little bit different.
I'll leave right now. I swear I'll end this live stream.
A team you mentioned. No, I know who you think I'm. No, okay. I'm not going there. A team that you mentioned, though, I'm going to go Oklahoma State. I think with Alan Bowman, obviously we know Ollie Gordon, probably the top running back coming back. They're bringing back their top receiver and Brennan Presley. I think we know more about what this team is. Let me say, Utah is a powerhouse and has been a little bit of a disrespected powerhouse. My concern is Cam Rising was out the entire year last year. We don't know what he looks like after this injury. For that injury that we thought was supposed to be a week or 2 weeks, or let me say, this one could go either way. I feel like right now in the moment, I know more about who Oklahoma State is and what they're going to do than I do about Utah. Utah's offense last year was horrific. Now, again, that is absolutely without Cam Rising. But we don't know that the Cam Rising we saw 2 years ago is the Cam Rising we're going to see this year. And the rest of the offense looked pretty putrid without him there. The question is, did he mean that much to this team? Is just him alone the difference between this being a playoff level offense versus a offense that was carried by their defense? And I think in the Big 12 this year, you're going to need to have a serviceable offense to be able to beat some of these teams. I just feel like Oklahoma State brought back a lot of talent, a lot of production. I got to go Oklahoma State this year.
Already in. Let's move over to the SEC. If you would have said Colorado, we would have ended this damn show. Let's go to the SEC. Who you got in the SEC?
This is a simple one for me. The SEC is tough.
I
I
feel like
think
this was not simple. This was the hardest one.
I think there are a bunch of good teams, but I have to give Kirby Smart the benefit of the doubt. I have counted him out multiple seasons where I thought they were done and he was done and they just lost too much to the NFL. And he seems to have this thing rolling, much to the same way. And remember, he is a student of Nick Saban, much to the same way Nick Saban had Alabama in their stretch, which was every year. A lot of us thought, hey, Alabama lost too much. And then the next year, they're right back in that picture. Well, with that, you bring in a ETN, who is a good running back in Florida, who I think is really going to pop behind that big Georgia offensive line. Remember, the talent around ETN in Florida is not the talent that he's going to see at Georgia, especially in that offensive line. You bring back a Carson Beck, who just seems to know how to keep that offense moving, doesn't make big mistakes. You bring back the Georgia defense, Kirby Smart, much the same way I say Dabo Swinney. Yeah, I agree with you, Greg. This isn't the poster board. This isn't the hey, this one's going to get the highlights. But I think it's the right pick. I think Georgia is just the best team in the SEC. I give Kirby Smart the benefit of the doubt over any coach in the SEC. I think Texas is going to be good. I honestly think Alabama is probably going to have much more to say with the final conclusion of the SEC and how it all pans out than some people are giving them credit for. But I think Georgia and what they bring back and who they got leading the helm is the best team.
Okay. So I was anti-Longhorns last year. I have Texas winning the SEC this year.
Okay.
Same concept I had for Michigan last year. I just think they're the most complete team. I know they lost CJ Baxter for the year, but I think they can plug and place him back in with someone else. Greg says, I don't think Bama will fall as much as people think. I got them going 10-2.
Yeah, and I say the same. I agree.
I think Texas is just a really good team. I think Quinn Ewers coming back. He has a plethora of experience at the collegiate level. So I just think I have Texas beating Georgia. Those of you guys who watched the preview, if you haven't, go back and watch those. But I do have Texas. I'm going 11-1. I don't have an SEC team going undefeated this year. But I mean, Alabama's going to be good. LSU's going to be good. Tennessee, Ole Miss, Mizzou. There's a lot of teams to choose from in the SEC, but I just think Texas has the best chance. I mean, that's who my prediction is with right now. I like Quinn Ewers. I like Sarkisian and what he's building in Texas. I like the transfer portal with Isaiah Bond, Makuba. Obviously, CJ Baxter going down is going to be a big hit for them. Yes. But I think they'll be able to kind of weather that storm. Okay. We do have the national champion next, but I kind of want to hold off on that first because I feel like that's an important piece to hit on. Okay. So let's skip national champion and go to runner up, and we'll come back to national champion at the very end. So I'll go first. My runner up. So who I have losing in the national championship game this year is Oregon. I think Oregon is going to lose the national championship game this year. I think eventually it's just going to be like an attrition of not injuries, but kind of being banged up. This is going to be the first time we see a 12-team playoff. You're going to have to play many more games. Yeah. And it's not regular I'm playing Texas Tech and BYU type games. You're playing top 10 matchups 3 weeks in a row, maybe even 4. So, I mean, you got to count the title game as well, the conference title game. So essentially you have the conference championship game. And then if Oregon, in my prediction, wins the Big Ten, you have the bye. So then you have to play 3 playoff games. So we're talking about 4 games against top 10 opponents. And a lot of these teams who I anticipate being in the top 12 are going to be physical teams. I don't see a lot of teams like in Oregon who are going to be playing that style of football. Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, all of these type of teams play very physical. Even Clemson plays very physical. It's not like in Oregon where get people in space kind of thing. So I think Oregon makes it really far this year, but I do have them losing in the national championship game.
So I feel like this is very anticlimactic. I have Georgia as the runner-up. I think, again, all due respect to Kirby Smart, I think this team may not be as talented offensively or defensively as teams in the past. I don't think this is a team that's going to have 8-9 people drafted in the first round this next year. But I think Kirby Smart is a heck of a coach. Top 2, if not number 1 coach in college football. I think it's always good when you bring back your starting quarterback. I think they field the talent that they had leave for the NFL around. I like Oscar Delk as a tight end. I think, again, I'm not going to say he's Brock Bowers, but I think he's going to be a very good tight end. I like ETN with this team. I think ETN is really going to get off. I think this is just a tough team. Again, obviously, I don't have them winning at all, but I have Georgia as my runner-up.
Okay, let's go to biggest surprise team. So I'll let you go first. Who do you feel like is going to make the biggest splash and turn the most heads this year?
I think, and this is probably surprising, a team you didn't think of. You would not a team you didn't think of, but a team that you wouldn't think that I would pick. I am going to say Syracuse. I like what Syracuse has coming back. I think Kyle McCord at Ohio State was a pretty good quarterback. I think he actually was a very serviceable quarterback. They're bringing back a 1,000-yard rusher in Allen. I think they're bringing back one of the best tight ends in college football in Gadsden. I think they always play tough defense. They're always a pretty tough team. I think that Syracuse might be a 9-10 win team and are right even on the cusp of maybe looking at a playoff. Probably, if I had to name my 12 teams right now, they're probably on the outside looking in. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is a team that's around the 15-17 mark. I'm telling you, I think this team is going to be really good. I hear you, man. Listen, hey, I'm putting it out there, right? This is surprise. So if you were right along with me, then it wouldn't be a surprise. Like, see, I don't know. I'd call Arizona a surprise. I think some people are expecting Arizona to be pretty good.
Okay. This is going to be. I want to set the table for this. I want to set the mood for this one.
Set the table. I'm listening.
So this one is not a pick like yours, where it's a team that hasn't been relevant in forever.
Okay.
Grayson,
Nebraska. I like that one.
I had Nebraska, but I erased it for this team.
I like that one. I like that one.
I had Nebraska on my list last year. But I'm gonna go with the team that everybody is expecting to be horrible. They weren't really good last year.
Okay.
They lost something that they're not going to get back for a little minute. I have USC being a big surprise this year. And when I say big surprise, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I could see a 9-3 type season. A 9-3, 8-4 type season, 10-2, which I think is a surprise. When you lose Caleb Williams, we see what he's doing in the NFL in preseason already. Miller Moss had a really good outing in the bowl game last year. I think Lincoln Riley is in a position where he has to improve defensively and win games. So I think we could be sleeping heavily on this USC Trojan team. And I think I had him going 7-5 or 8-4 in our preview. But I really hope that this team just does really good this year. And it's like a storyline that USC could win without Caleb Williams. I think that would be super cool because we saw Caleb Williams kind of putting the team and willing the team on his back for the last 2 seasons. So, I mean, I don't know. There's something about it that I just think it screams surprise because I think they are explosive enough to beat anybody. It's just, can their defense stop someone? That's the only thing holding them back. Their offense can score with the best of anyone. So I'm excited to see them play against the teams in the Big Ten. And I'm actually really excited to watch them this year. I don't know why, but I like them there. But let's move on to disappointment. We're going to stay in the Big Ten. This is no hate to this team because I was the highest of the high on them last year. Michigan is going to be very, very bad this year.
You say very, very bad. Okay.
Very bad this year. I say I would be more – okay, I'll put it this way.
Listen, I'd love to hear it.
I would be more surprised if Michigan went 10-2 than I would if USC went 10-2. Okay. That's just me being honest. I think Michigan lost a lot, and I challenge you guys to go look at their depth chart from last year on their roster and their starters to look at what they have now. I know Donovan Edwards is a good running back. He's not Blake Corum, especially when you lose a guy like Blake Corum and a guy like J.J. McCarthy.
Donovan Edwards was a change of pace back that I think only was under 500 yards rushing last year.
Yeah, and they lose a lot on defense. Even though they're going to have one of the best defenses, they still lose a lot. Their defense, I saw their defense win them games last year.
Yeah.
And they lost a lot. I don't think they're going to be able to lean as heavily on the ground game as they did last year because I think Corum was a really good running back that was not respected enough. I think Donovan Edwards is a good running back in his own right, but Alec Orji does not have the type of arm talent that JJ McCarthy does. He doesn't have the type of experience that JJ McCarthy does. So I think that's going to matter. I think Harbaugh leaving is going to matter. Now, I'm not into the whole theatrics and the skepticals about, the cheating scandal. I don't think that played a big part, but I think Harbaugh is a really good coach, and I think that with him being gone, it's going to play a factor.
Okay. So my team, the bad part about the pick that I'm going to make is it's more about they are hyped by people who I think don't know football well more than I think the people here are going to say, I agree with you. My biggest disappointment and in surprise to Steven is Colorado.
Wow.
Is Colorado. Yeah. I think people already have them. You can look at college football 25 and how they kind of have them ranked. I think there's too much hype around them for a team that led college football in sacks last year. You bring in 5 new linemen, and no knock to the linemen, but let's remember that outside of Seton, who came in as a 5-star, none of these guys were great. Were all Americans at their last stop. Now, obviously, do I think it'll be better than what they had last year? Yeah, but going from last to something other than last is better. I don't think that this line is good enough. I don't think that the talent around their big stars. I think Travis Hunter's great. I think Shedeur Shiloh's great. I'm a Dallin Hayden fan, the running back that they got from Ohio State. I think he's good, but there's so much more that makes a football team. I don't like what they got on the defensive line. I don't think they have a great linebacker room. I don't think that their cornerbacks outside of Travis Hunter are good. I don't think their offensive line is good. I don't think, I like Jimmy Horn. I don't think the weapons outside of him and Travis Hunter are very good. I think this is another 5-6 win season, and that's going to be a disappointment. However, if we were smart, and I say this to the smart college football fans,
Jedi.
What's up, Jedi? A 6-win season is about where they should be in their progression. Let's remember 2 years ago, they were a one-win team. I think, that's a good call. I think they'll be a 6-win team. They'll make a bowl, but this will not be some big grand farewell to Shedeur and Travis and Shiloh, who are all probably leaving to the NFL next year. I don't think this is going to be a team that makes big noise in the Big 12. Now, they may knock off a team, but I don't think this is a team that at the end of the year is going to be looking like a conference championship team. So I think they're going to be a big disappointment through no fault of their own, but just the expectations that having Coach Prime puts on them, having Shedeur, having Travis Hunter puts on them. I don't think it's fault of their own, but I've seen people going crazy talking about them being a playoff team and things of that nature. I don't think they're ready for that. I think this is about a 6-win team.
Okay. So now we'll get to the national championship team.
And let me say guinea pig. So I agree with what you're saying. Yeah,
he's talking about Notre Dame.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm pretty sure he's talking about Notre Dame. I'm almost positive.
I thought he was talking about.
No, I'm pretty sure he's talking about Notre Dame. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first for the national championship?
I'll go first because mine's probably the easier pick, right? Okay. Obviously, you guys know I'm a big Ohio State fan. I absolutely love what we brought back and then what we brought in. The defense, we lost a safety, 2 linebackers. Obviously, you bring in Caleb Downs, you move Sonny Styles down. I think we are good. Our entire secondary's back. Our entire defensive line, and I'll say defensive line, we did lose a defensive tackle, but he platooned anyway, is back. And again, Ohio State, a blue blood, especially in terms of recruiting. So we have a bunch of kids ready to come in. I love that part of it. Offense. The offensive line is pretty much intact. Travion Henderson is back. We did lose Marvin Harrison Jr., and obviously he was a big part of the offense. But I like what we have. Stephen mentioned Oregon's wide receivers. I'm not going to put them on the same pedestal as Oregon's wide receivers because they're a little bit more proven, right? Tez and Stewart are a little bit more proven, but I think talent for talent, this might be one of the best wide receiver rooms in college football. again, there's some people that need to show up that we need to really see. Ennis, Tate, Jeremiah Smith, as you guys probably heard about all summer. But Mbuka is legit, and we know that. It's just what next 2 or 3 players are going to step up. I like our quarterback room, and I think Will Howard. We can look at the Kansas State ending, and we can say, I don't think he's great. Remember, and again, this is no knock to Kansas State. Kansas State is not Ohio State. You are playing with a different level of talent at Ohio State. And then this is a quarterback who's very mobile, who's big and strong and hard to take down, and he is playing with a level of talent he's never played with. I think the running back room is the best in the nation. To me, that's pretty simple. I think this team all came back on a mission, much like that Michigan team last year, right? You remember Michigan lost to TCU. A lot of those players could have went to the NFL. They came back with a mission to win the national championship. JT, Jack Sawyer, and I can keep going down the list. Those guys, Denzel Burke, all of those guys came back to win the national championship. I think those guys are motivated, fired up. I think Ryan Day's motivated, fired up. I think this team is going to be focused and ready to go from day one. Again, the road for any team, as Steven mentioned, beating 3 top 10 teams is not easy. The road for any team is going to be hard. But I think this team is motivated. I like the veterans. I like what we brought in. I like what we replaced it with. Again, I'm an Ohio State fan. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I got Ohio State as my national championship, my national champion this year.
Okay. This is a very weird pick for me, I feel like. I don't know why I'm picking this team, but it could be because of
hold on, let me guess real fast.
Could be because of brainwash treatment. It's definitely not Ohio State.
Oh, damn!
Big Al's from the league we run. Okay, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We're gonna start going live every week, and we're gonna start posting every other day as college football season kind of gets underway.
Damn, I thought you said okay.
National champions this year. I'm going with Alabama.
Oh my goodness!
I'm going with Alabama. Bama's.
I thought you were going to say Texas.
No, I'm going with Alabama here. Brandon, don't disrespect this now. I'm going to take my pick back. I just feel like at the end of the day, you need a guy who's going to make a play. Okay. I think that's what it comes down to. I think Jalen Milroe is that guy. I was beating that drum before we even saw him play a snap last year.
You were.
And I think with an entire offseason under a new offensive mind in Kalen DeBoer, we saw what he did with Penix. Not saying he's going to play like Penix, but I think if he's able to get a scheme around him. And I don't have Alabama winning the conference championship. Those of you guys have been here for the last 30 minutes. Yeah. But I think their schedule and their position, if they don't win a conference championship, is what's driving me to pick them. I think they're going to be up between a 5 and an 8 seed, which in turn is going to let them play 10, 11, or 12. And I like them over anybody who's going to be around that spot. And I think on a neutral field, I like Alabama against anyone. Not to say they can't lose, but it's hard to bet against Alabama. And I understand, again, this is why I said brainwash treatment. Nick Saban's not there, but this team has recruited so well over the last decade that I'm not betting on Alabama, Jedi. That's not what's going to happen now. But I because that's okay. How about we bet on if Alabama wins it or Florida State wins it? Let's do that then. Because if we just say I'm gonna bet $20 Alabama won't win it, that's a bad bet for me.
Yeah, because that's like Alabama versus the field.
Me versus the field. Like that doesn't make any sense.
I wouldn't take Ohio State versus the field.
But yeah, I like this team against anyone on a neutral site. I mean, obviously, I like Texas, I like Georgia, I like Ohio State, I like Oregon. But I think when you line up against Alabama, I just think even though Nick Saban is not there, I like everything as far as their depth at every position. The only part of their team where I'm like, it's shaky is the secondary.
I don't like their wide receiver room.
Oh, the wide receivers don't bother me because I think they've recruited so well that there's going to be somebody on this team that we're going to look at and be like, why wasn't he playing last year? Like, it's going to happen.
No, that's a good point.
Now, the secondary.
And I think the board's going to open it up a little bit more. Somebody's going to pop. But I'm just saying, as I look at the names outside of, and I'm big into recruiting, I don't think there's a bunch of names. We'll see what Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law, Jeremy Bernard don't, but none of them have big numbers in college football yet. Let me say yet.
Yeah, I think eventually we're gonna get to know who's on
Yeah,
this roster.
and is that's Harlow? Is that Harlow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me say this. I know Alabama recruits out of this world, so I am certain that these are 5-star guys that just haven't had the opportunity. So I'm sure they're going to pop.
And I do want to say also, I don't think Alabama needs a star-studded wide receiving core to win. I mean, they did it before. Now, obviously, of recent years, they had really good wide receivers, but I think Jalen Milroe is a really good quarterback. I think he's able to garner so much attention. We saw what he did against Auburn in the last second of the game. Bryce, if you're in here, I'm sorry. But if we saw what he did, he threw the pass to Isaiah Bond or whoever that was in the back.
But I also said that was a horrible game for him.
But still, I think the fact that he's in the backfield, he garners so much attention. I don't think you need a Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith type receiver when you have a guy like Jalen Milroe who can break away at any point. He reminds me of Lamar Jackson. I think when it comes to Alabama, their defense is so good, and Jalen Milroe is such a bailout that I find it very, even without Nick Saban, it's going to be very hard for them to lose. I think it's going to be like to sit here and watch them lose games. It's going to be very, very unrealistic.
Yeah, I mean, they're not an easy win. I mean, so this isn't a crazy pick by any means. Let me see. We took Ohio State and no one. Okay. But I don't think this is remember, Alabama is still playing with a majority of guys that Nick Saban recruited. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to prove to be a much better coach than maybe people are giving him credit for. I don't think this is a crazy pick. The only crazy part about the pick is that the year after Nick Saban leaves, for them to win the national championship would be kind of wild. But yeah, I think they're a very talented team. I think there's just some unknowns. And my first unknown is the wide receiver room. I really want to see what this wide receiver room looks. I absolutely believe that one of these guys steps up and looks amazing. But that's just my concern. I think everywhere else, I like the running backs. I think this is a great running back room with Haynes and Jam Miller. I don't know that they have that Will Anderson, Dallas Turner linebacker, but again, that might just be a case of that guy just hasn't been able to show himself yet. But I'm not mad at the pick.
Yeah, I think when I compare them, this is a weird comparison, but just hear me out. I think this is a situation where it's going to be like Utah, where the defense is going to win them so many games, or even like a Clemson last year, where Clemson was in every single one of their games because of their defense. I don't think that this team is going to fall this far behind the 8 ball when your defense is this good. I think obviously they have one of the best home field advantages in college football as well. Now, if you want to say they'll lose in the first round or something like that, I get it. But I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if this team is not in the playoffs this year. And I think if they get in the playoffs, if I had to go off the top of my head, if we're talking about neutral sites, well, obviously neutral sites wouldn't be for the first one. But if we're talking about playoff football, if there's 12 teams, in my opinion, you can name any teams in the country in a playoff win or go home. I'm taking Bama probably in a top 4 out of the top 12. There's maybe Texas, maybe Ohio State.
So, but the thing is, are you doing that just based off of? Remember, this is not Nick Saban. Because if you said the same thing with Nick Saban and just his ability to be cerebral in those situations, I think you're going to see differences.
I think there's going to be differences as well, but it's not like they went and got a guy who didn't win before. I think even though Kalen DeBoer is a much more inexperienced coach than Saban, he had a really good season in Washington.
That's a fact.
And let's be honest, the Washington team from last year is not as good as the Alabama team this year, and I'm willing to bet on that. I think
it's because that receiving core is better than the receiving core he has.
I'll put it this way: there's more room for error on this Alabama team than there was in the Washington team last year. I'll put it that way. There's more room for error when you have like I said, a bailout in Jalen Milroe. The defense is going to be way better than the Washington defense last year. Now, I would say the only part that you could say is head and shoulders better is a wide receiver room. That's the only position that you could say is way better.
You said, but I disagree with you. You said there's more room for error, and I'm going to tell you why I disagree with you. I think Washington last year had 2 games that they knew were going to be, hey man, we gotta put on our hard hat. In fact,
one second. I am down to make this $20 bet. I am down to make a $20 bet that Alabama goes farther in the playoffs than Florida State. So right, you let me know. Put the handshake emoji in the chat. And that's $20 right there. All right, keep going though.
I disagree because you remember there were games, the Arizona game, there were a couple of games where Washington did not look great, but they were still able to win. The problem is you can't have those games in the SEC. Alabama, when you look at their schedule, they don't have much room to have we got a bad game when you're talking about, and again, we're just going to talk about the teams that can play at that level. You're talking about a Georgia, a Tennessee, a Missouri, a LSU, a Oklahoma, and Auburn. There's not just one game that I can focus on and say, hey, that's the game we got to be ready for.
But you have to also keep in mind that was during a 14 playoff. This is a 12-team playoff.
Oh, good point. Good point.
So when I say more room for error, they could lose 2 games in the regular season and be a 10 seed or an 11 seed easily. Yeah. And I like them over anybody in the playoffs outside of a team like Texas, Ohio State, Georgia. I think those are toss-up games. But if you were to tell me Clemson was the 6th seed and we're playing against a 10 seed Alabama is going to beat Clemson. That's just what it comes down to.
Come on, I need you to
that's just what it comes down to. If they were to play a Florida State, all right, sounds good. Handshake it is $20 bet at the end of the year. If they were to play a Florida State, they're beating Florida State. If they were to beat a Utah, they're beating a Utah. If they were to play a Michigan, I think they're beating a Michigan. There's only a few teams where I can say, they're going to lose.
There are teams that I believe right now they just have more talent. I think Ohio State. I think Oregon. I think Texas. Georgia. I'm going to give Georgia, but Georgia I'll probably give.
So that's 4. That's what I would say is right where I would draw the line.
Yeah, those are teams that I believe man for man, talent for talent, production for production. Those teams just have more talent. Now, again, I don't want to say any given Saturday because to me, I think Saturday it doesn't work as the same as Sunday, right? If Ohio State loses to Akron, I'd be pretty upset. But do I think if you told me Alabama beat any one of those 4 teams, would I be shocked? Like, oh no, that's crazy? No. Would you agree that Ohio State and Oregon are more tough? I mean, again, let me say this. I'm an Ohio State fan, so yes, I think the talent on Georgia is not as great. However, I think Kirby Smart being such a great coach can help some of their deficiencies in talent, right? Obviously, I think when you lose Ladd, when you lose Brock Bowers, the receiving corps is probably a little bit down. But I think Kirby Smart is going to have that defense keyed and ready to go. I think I would say just off of the rip, Ohio State and Oregon have more talent. I think Kirby Smart is a better coach than Ohio State and Oregon's coach. And I think that could be, if they had to play a game, that could be the thing that makes up the difference.
Okay, guinea pig, I do want to bring this up. If you're saying, do I favor Notre Dame over Alabama? No. I think Notre Dame is a really good team. I think I had them going undefeated, if I'm not mistaken, or 11-1, I forget. But until Notre Dame shows me they can win a big time game, I cannot favor them over any of these people we're talking about. Not to say they can't beat them, but it is. I'm not gonna say historically because obviously from before I was born they were winning. But in the last decade or so, give or take 8 years, every time they get to the top of where they need to be, they fold every single time. Last year I was so high on them with Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman just didn't fit. I think they have the potential to be a really good team. I think the defense is going to be really good.
I like Riley Leonard.
I think Riley Leonard's going to be really good. I think he's going to fit better than Sam Hartman. But at the end of the day, the history has shown us that this team cannot beat the other good teams when it matters the most. So I'm not comfortable putting them in the same breath as the other teams until they get to that point. I think the
Let
schedule
me
is
say
very,
this.
very favorable for them this year.
I think Notre Dame is, if I had to take the yes or no on this, I would take the yes. Notre Dame is a playoff team.
Yeah, I think they're a playoff team as well. I don't think they're as talented as Alabama, though, because I think at the end of the day, it depends what you view as talent. I mean, Notre Dame obviously recruits at a high level. That's not what I'm saying.
They're a blue blood and they get 5 stars
But I
regularly.
think Alabama's depth, and I think so. Put it this way: last year, Notre Dame didn't really have the guy at wide receiver. They did not have the guy. They are expecting a guy like Bo Collins to come in there and make immediate production.
But Bo Collins was and again, obviously it didn't work out at Clemson. Bo Collins was a 5-star wide receiver.
And,
so obviously the talent exists.
That doesn't matter if he's a 5-star wide receiver then.
But I'm going to say this because again, maybe this was a situation where, and to use your words against you, hey, maybe the styles make fights. Maybe it just didn't work out because that situation didn't work out.
He said Bo's not starting. Well, okay, if he's not starting, then that's fine. But I'm not going off of, this guy could be a 4 or 5-star. If you were in the college football and you were a 5-star and you played and did not produce, then I'm not counting you.
No,
so it's different from a guy like Ryan Williams, who's a 5-star.
No, hold on. I'm going to pause there. Because saying exactly what you just said, go look at Evan Stewart's. I think you paused. Go look at Evan Stewart's numbers in Texas A&M. They were not great. They're not good at all.
Was he not a first-team SEC All-American?
Evan Stewart had like 500 yards receiving last year.
Was last year his freshman year?
I'm not sure.
Because I'm almost positive in his freshman year he was like he was a first-team All-SEC. If I'm not mistaken.
Hold on. I'm gonna pull up.
Not to say he might have had a bad year last year, but I know I'm not tripping as far as him having a good year in the SEC.
So last year, Evan Stewart, 514 yards receiving. Now, again, I'm just going by last year. Let me look at what he did the year before that.
He had pretty much
the year before that, 649. So based off of production, Evan Stewart is not a good college wide receiver. His biggest season is 600 yards.
But here's the difference. Did he get benched for someone behind him?
No, he didn't get benched.
Bo Collins got benched. Bo Collins got benched for someone behind him. And again, with Evan Stewart, it's a different situation because he was, if I'm not mistaken,
but where I give Evan Stewart credit is because I say, hey, the Oregon style is going to get him the ball much more. I suspect that he's going to pop this year because Oregon throws the ball a lot more. They're going to get the ball to him in his hands in space. I think he's going to pop this year.
Okay, if you look at the Notre Dame wide receiver room, they lost Tobias Merriweather and Chris Tyree.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, those are their 2 wide receivers. They're 2 go-to guys. I know Jaden Greathouse is back. But when you look at Alabama, they lost some production as well. But the guys coming from behind them, we don't know what they are.
Yeah,
I know what Notre Dame has. So that's the difference. I'd rather be in Alabama shoes where you don't know if somebody's going to be good. I know for damn sure Bo Collins ain't good.
And again, listen, I am not a Bo Collins fan. What I do know about Bo Collins is he's a 5-star recruit. What I do know about Bo Collins and Steven Jackson is a couple years ago, Steven Jackson was very happy that Bo Collins was picked Clemson.
And, this perfect. Thank you for saying that. I'm sure Brandon in here is very happy Ryan Williams picked Alabama.
Of course, yeah,
but in 2 years, he may not be happy no more. Malachi Nelson was the #1 recruit. Now he's at Boise State and he just got benched. So this 5-star rating system only matters if you produce.
I can put Bo Collins' numbers last year right next to Evan Stewart's. He was 500 yards.
How many games did he play?
I don't know how many games. Hold on. So his numbers, I think they may have the same number of receptions, and he has about the same number of yards.
I want to know how many games he played.
How
many games did Bo Collins play?
Okay, so I don't know how many games he played. I know he did not have a reception in the North Carolina game. Now, I don't know if that's just because he didn't have a reception.
He played 11 games, and Evan Stewart played 8.
But let's not make it seem like Evan Stewart was leaps and bounds better than Bo Collins last year.
He's leaps and bounds better than Bo Collins.
I'm talking about production. You're talking about What
Production as well. Based on the averages, he was leaps and bounds better. If
that's
you play
not leaps and bounds.
it is. He played
That's not
30% less games and had the same numbers.
That's
What are
not
we talking about?
That's not leaps and bounds.
He played 8 games compared to 11 and had the same numbers as him.
That I wouldn't call that leaps and bounds. I would say
if you put Evan Stewart on the field 3 more times based on his averages, it's going to be way better stats than what Bo Collins did.
He's probably going to be at about 600 yards.
He's only going to get 100 yards in 3 extra games, bro.
So he's averaging. What do you say? Okay, you said he played 8 games. Hold on,
yes.
I'm gonna do the math on this.
You crazy, man? That's crazy.
You said he played 8 games, right?
He played 8 games and he has 514 yards. So he averages a touchdown every other game.
No. We're doing yards.
Even do yards. That's fine.
New stats.
Go ahead. Do yards. 514 divided by 8.
Hold on, my calculator won't come up.
Oh, now your calculation's not working.
Oh, I'm gonna get it. Trust me, I'm gonna get it.
64 yards a game. So add 180 yards to what he has.
So you're talking about 600 some yards.
And how many yards does Bo Collins have?
So that's not like oh man, he's so much better. He had 650 yards. Bo Collins had 500. And again, I think
694. Let's make sure we get it right. Don't say 600 yards and not add the 80. That's crazy. Y'all see how he likes to do this only when it goes against his point.
But I'm saying, I am saying, let's not make it seem like, again, you have Evan Stewart as a name, as the top receiver in Oregon, as a guy that you think is going to pop, right? I am saying that Bo Collins is, in terms of production, isn't that far behind. It's very possible that he gets to Notre Dame and pops. It's very possible.
You want to bet $20?
Yeah.
Let's bet $20.
What would the bet be? I don't even know what
I'm willing to bet Evans. Okay, before we make the bet, though, injuries can't play a part. No, injuries can't play a part is what I'm saying. So if Evan Stewart tears his ACL in week 1, it can't be counted.
Okay.
I'm willing to bet Evan Stewart has at least 250 yards more receiving than him this year.
2, 3. Evan 250 bet. Bet it up. We got to do this.
$20.
We got to do that.
$20. He's gonna have
250. Remember, write that down.
Now again, if Evan Stewart gets hurt in week 2 or week 3, that doesn't count. They have to play the same amount. I don't even say play the same amount of games. If they both play at least 8 games or 7 games, then that's fair. That's fair game. You play the majority of the season.
Remember, you're probably right.
And Notre Dame might have Bo Collins out there blocking. That's what's going to happen.
But I'll take the $20 bet just to keep it fun.
He's about to be out there blocking. But that's that was a tangent we had on Notre Dame. He said we had 3 scholarship guys. We got 4 more receivers than last year.
Who is this? Oregon?
Notre Dame.
Oh.
I just don't see how. Again, Sam Hartman throws the ball over the field. Again, Wake Forest is different. You're bringing a guy in, Riley Leonard, who doesn't have a big arm. He's not known for throwing the ball. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where you're going to get a wide receiver that just pops up out of nowhere. Now, I'm not saying that Jaden Greathouse is bad. I'm not saying Mitchell is bad. I'm not saying Bo Collins is completely bad. But I don't think
you acting like Bo Collins.
I don't think in that system you're going to get a wide. I don't think you really need a wide receiver. Same thing I said about Alabama. I don't think you need a wide receiver to be good. But I don't think Riley Leonard has that game-breaking ability that we saw in the game against Clemson. I just don't see it. Yeah, don't tell him nothing. We already shook.
Now, remember, they don't have Estime coming back. I think they're going to throw the ball around the yard a little bit more this year.
I think they're going to throw as well, but I don't know. That $20 is going to get me a double quarter pounder. I'll tell you that.
Man, you need a double quarter pounder. I got you. All right. No, but that's not the difference between you getting a double quarter pounder or not. All right. I hope
that'll be the difference to the point
where whether or not you eat or not is whether or not you win this bet. Okay. If times get hard, you got a dad. Okay.
That's crazy.
Don't come out with no diss track. I grew up with just my mama. No, you got a dad. All right. If times get hard and you need a double quarter pounder, we don't have to make a bet so you can eat. You don't have to gamble for food. All right. You got a dad. I'm betting whether or not my family eats on this. Listen, I'm concerned.
Who does Notre Dame have? Texas A&M, right?
Here I can pull it up. I literally got them up right now.
Pretty sure they got Texas A&M week 1.
Oh, that'd be a good game. Texas A&M. Yep, August 31st.
Neutral site?
It says at Texas A&M, but let me.
If it's at A&M, that game's gonna get ugly quick.
Yeah, it's at Kyle Field. So let me say this: we're gonna see right away. Yeah, I'm looking at tickets.
Yeah, we are gonna see right away.
Hey, real quick while we got him on the line, Bama, you trying to go to that Georgia Alabama game?
Oh, he's not going to that game, bro.
You're not going? Why?
He said it's too expensive.
Bama, you need to make a $20 bet. Bama, get these comments, man, and start getting your bets up. Man, talk to my boy Harlow. Man, you don't even have to shower, man. You can do it. Man, what? Okay, this is a once in a. That's gonna be probably. If I look early, right? Is there any wild game that you're looking forward to? Like a game that maybe because again,
Ohio State Oregon.
No. I'm saying like a game because the Alabama Georgia game, the Ohio State Oregon game, those ones we know. Is there some game that maybe isn't on everybody's radar that you're kind of like, man, I can't wait for that one?
Let me look at the schedule.
I'm gonna say like that Ohio State Penn State game. I think is going to be big. I think it's going to be a whiteout. I think Penn State's going to be out rocking. I think, and we talk about James Franklin. I think he has something. Hey, Greg, man. Hey, I'm about to holler at you because I think let me whisper this. I think I'm gonna be at that game as well. So man, we may have to click up, man. That Miami Florida game is gonna be a good game. Yeah. Hey, if you're still rocking with us, man, let us know, man. We all know Alabama, Georgia, we know Ohio State, Oregon. Is there some other game that maybe is on the schedule that you're like, man, lightweight, that might be a heck of a game, man? Is there a game that you would really like to be at that maybe isn't on everybody's radar?
I mean, the Georgia-Texas game is going to be good.
Yeah, that's a good one. And a lot of people aren't talking about that game.
I think the Alabama-Missouri game is going to be good. I think Florida State-Miami is probably one I'm looking forward to the most. That's a rivalry game. I think Miami's, getting back to Miami football. I think Florida State's going to take a bit of a step back. So I think that game should be good. But
so it's funny you said Florida State because, and I'm only saying this because I think I'm actually going to try to go too. I think quiet is kept. That Florida State Clemson game in the Doak.
I think Brandon's trying to go to that game.
I think that's going to be the game that decides the ACC. I think a lot of people aren't talking about it, but I think that's going to be the game that decides the ACC. That's going to be a big game. That game's October 5th in Florida State. And let me say this: if you guys have not been, Doak Campbell is an amazing stadium to go to. I'm going to tell you. And I've been to now. I'm not going to make it seem like I've been to every, but I've been to a good number of games. Florida State, when they start doing the chop, and the whole stadium is doing it. I know I talked to Stephen about it, it's one of those moments, man. It is fun. It is just the pageantry. But the pageantry of that, man, the whole stadium doing the chop, man, that stadium rocks. If you guys get an opportunity to go to Florida State in Tallahassee for a big game, it was one of those sporting moments, one of those sporting events, man, that I always remember.
Y'all let us know what other types of live shows y'all want us to do throughout the season. Next year, we're going to do our award predictions.
Next week.
What did I say?
Next year.
Oh, I'm tripping.
I was like, man, this man planning for next year. Damn. And then you said award predictions. I was like, yeah, this man planning for a minute from now. Man, next year we
Nah,
we do,
next-
I like
next-
we doing the ESPYs. we gonna host the ESPYs. We gonna have our own Neutral Zone Award show. We gonna be in suits, man. We gonna have all the fans come out, man. We gonna pick a location and we gonna have little trophies, man. We can see if we can get some of the players there and shit.
Nah, next weekend we're gonna do the award prediction.
Absolutely.
Obviously, talk about week 0 games as well. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us for the past hour.
Yeah, man, it's good being back.
Yeah, definitely gonna start posting again consistently and live shows every Sunday. But we will see you guys next time. We appreciate you guys. Peace out, everybody.